Welcome to Week 7 of the 2011 legislative session. From Tallahassee, I'm John Johnson, your Director of Governmental Affairs and Chief Lobbyist for the FICPA. Days 35 through 40 began the home stretch of the 60-day session, as lawmakers must now begin balancing their time between hundreds of bills under consideration and closing the $3.3 billion gap that separates their respective budget plans. And the means used by the Florida legislature to close that gap is through the conference process, which, by the way, is among one of the oldest lawmaking procedures, dating back to the early days of British Parliament, carried over to America, as colonial legislatures used conference committees to reconcile their differences. The procedure used today by the Florida legislature begins with the Speaker of the House and the Senate President appointing their respective conferees to negotiate one budget that would be passed by both the House and the Senate. And as you can imagine, the process can be quite lengthy and tedious, as conferees must schedule their meetings around other legislative business and usually work late nights and weekends in order to accomplish their goal to come up with one budget to be passed by both chambers by the end of the 60-day session, which, by the way, at this point in time may be in jeopardy because of a decision made on day 37 by the Speaker and the President that the meetings will not begin until after the Easter Passover holiday, which now gives lawmakers 2 weeks to resolve their $3.3 billion spending gap and could very well put the May 6 adjournment date in jeopardy. In this week's bill track, the House Economic Affairs Committee passed House Bill 7185, a bill that updates the Florida Income Tax Code to reflect changes Congress made to the U.S. Internal Revenue Code as in effect on January 1st, 2011. This bill now goes to the full House for the debate as the identical companion Senate Bill 1998, has one more committee stop before being heard by the full Senate. The House Economic Affairs Committee passed a Qualified Targeted Industries Bill. House Bill 879 modifies the current list of target industries for the Qualified Targeted Industry Tax Refund Program, as set forth in Section 288.106 of the Florida statutes, by adding global logistics as a qualified target industry. To track these and other bills of interest, log on to the FICPA homepage. Find the Gov Affairs link on the upper right, which will take you to legislative updates and to bill tracking. In this week's Now You Know segment, which is dedicated to keeping you informed about proposed amendments to Florida's Constitution being considered by the Florida legislature, this week's Now You Know amendment can be found in Joint Resolution House Bill 439 and Senate Bill 592. This proposed joint resolution would amend Article 7, Section 6 of the Florida Constitution to allow disabled veterans who were not Florida residents at the time of entering military service to qualify for the Disabled Veterans Ad Valorem tax discount on homestead property. If this joint resolution passes both the House and the Senate by 3/5 vote, this proposed legislative amendment would be placed on the November 2012 ballot for voters to consider, which would require at least 60% of the voters to pass. And now you know. And finally, to end this week's report, the Institute shot the cover photo for the annual legislative edition of the Florida CPA Today magazine. As most of you already know, the May-June edition of the magazine usually includes one or more legislators who have gone above and beyond the call of duty for the profession. And this year's legislative edition of the magazine includes two legislators who have exemplified their dedication to the profession by sponsoring legislation on behalf of the Institute. You can learn more about these legislators in the upcoming May-June edition of the Florida CPA Today magazine. And if you have any comments, suggestions, or topics of interest that you would like to see covered on a future broadcast of the Legislative and Regulatory Update, please email me, John Johnson, at johnsonj@ficpa.org. Until next time, have a great week.